3 claims. 1 tablespoon of oil. Add it to your morning coffee, they say, and it reactivates the stem cells your body stopped making, starves cancer, and melts the fat around your organs, all before breakfast. 2 of those 3 fall apart, the second you read the real studies. The third is partly true, and there is a 4th thing this oil does that nobody selling it will mention, because for some people it quietly pushes cholesterol the wrong way. So before you spend $1, I will show you which claims hold up, which one could hurt you, and the 5-minute version actually worth doing. My name's Dr. Tom, and I built my career as a board-certified emergency doctor in a busy U.S. ER. One thing that work teaches you fast is the cost of a good story. People walk in every week having bet their health on something they read online, something that sounded like biology, used real words like mitochondria and ketones, and was 90% true and 10% dangerous. That 10% is what lands people in front of me. The oil we are talking about today is real. Some of what it does is real. But the way it is sold to people over 60 mixes a modest, honest benefit with 2 promises that could talk you out of the things that actually keep you alive. So here is what I want to walk you through, and by the end, you will be able to sort it yourself. I'm going to take the 5 things this oil is claimed to do, rank them from the most overhyped to the most real, show you the one warning almost nobody gives, and then, if you still want to try it, give you the exact way to do it without wasting your money or upsetting your stomach. Most people only know 2 or 3 of these, and it is usually the wrong 2 or 3. Let me tell you about Carol before we start, because she is the reason I take this seriously. Carol was 64, a retired school teacher in Tampa, the kind of person who researches everything. She read that this oil starves cancer cells. She started taking it every morning faithfully, and she felt like she was doing something powerful. So powerful that when the reminder came for a screening test she was overdue for, she let it slide. She was handling it, she figured. The oil was handling it. That is the exact trap. Not the oil itself. The false sense that a spoonful of fat is doing a job that only a real test can do. Hold on to Carol. We will come back to her. The oil, by the way, is MCT oil. That stands for medium chain triglyceride, which is just a type of fat with a shorter chemical backbone than the fat in olive oil or butter. Because the chain is shorter, your body handles it differently. Instead of the slow route through your lymph system, it goes almost straight to your liver, and your liver turns a chunk of it into ketones, an alternative fuel your cells can burn when sugar is running low. That part is genuine chemistry. Everything sold about this oil is built on that one real fact. The question is how far that fact actually stretches. Let me take the claims one at a time, worst to best. Claim number 1. The biggest stretch of all. This oil reactivates the stem cells your body stopped making. You will hear that your repair crew shuts down with age, and that a spoonful of this in your coffee wakes it back up. Here is what is true underneath that. Yes, your body's capacity to repair tissue does decline with age. And yes, there is real laboratory research showing that ketones influence how stem cells behave. Some of it is fascinating. But almost all of it is in mice, or in cells in a dish, not in living human beings drinking coffee. The word reactivate is doing enormous work there, and it is not earned. Think of it like a study showing a nutrient helps wounds heal in a petri dish. Interesting. Worth researching. But it does not mean pouring it on your arm heals a cut faster. The honest version is this. There is early-stage science here. There is no human evidence that this oil rebuilds your repair system. Anyone telling you it reactivates your stem cells is selling you a mouse study dressed up as a promise. File it under maybe someday, not under proven. That is claim 1, and it is mostly hype. And I can hear a few of you already, but I saw a doctor say this. Maybe you did. There are people with real credentials who take a genuine finding from a laboratory and describe it to you as if it already works in your body. Sometimes they believe it. Sometimes they are selling the oil 3 clicks down the page. Either way, the tell is the same. Listen for whether they are describing something measured in humans over time with real outcomes, or something measured in a cell, in a dish, once. Reactivating stem cells in a living aging person and proving it made them healthier would take years of careful human trials that simply have not been done. When someone skips that gap and hands you the conclusion anyway, they are not lying about the science. They are lying about how far along it is. That distance between an interesting result and a proven one is exactly where your money and your hope get spent for nothing. Now, claim number 2. This is the one I want you to pay the most attention to, because this is the one that can actually get you hurt. The claim is that this oil starves cancer. And I need to be careful and precise here, because there is a kernel of real science buried inside a genuinely dangerous conclusion. The real science is old. Back in the 1930s, a researcher noticed that many cancer cells consume sugar at a much higher rate than normal cells. That observation is real, it has a name, and it is still studied today. From it comes a reasonable-sounding idea. If cancer loves sugar, and this oil lowers your blood sugar by giving your cells another fuel, then maybe you can starve the cancer. It sounds logical. It uses real biology. And in a dish, and in some animal studies, you can measure effects. Here is the problem, and this is the share this with your father part of the whole video. In actual human beings with actual cancer, that idea has not been proven to work. The American Cancer Society's position is direct. There is not enough evidence that a ketogenic approach or any single food or oil treats or starves cancer in people. Your body is not a petri dish. It tightly defends your blood sugar, and a tumor pulls fuel from the whole system, not from your breakfast cup. So no, a spoon of oil in your coffee does not starve a cancer. And here is why that matters so much more than a wrong idea usually does. When someone believes their coffee is fighting cancer, they do something quietly catastrophic. They relax. Like Carol, they skip the screening. They wave off the symptom they should have gotten checked. They treat a breakfast habit as a substitute for the 2 things that genuinely save lives here, which are early detection and real treatment. And that is where the harm happens. Not from the oil. From the false confidence. So let me give you the thing that is actually true about cancer in your body, because I never want to leave you with fear and no handle. Excess body fat is one of the most consistent, evidence-based risk factors we have. The American Cancer Society links being overweight to 13 different types of cancer. That is not a fringe claim. That is mainstream, repeatedly confirmed oncology. So the real lever is not a magic oil. It is your waistline, your screenings, and your blood sugar over the years. If you want to lower your cancer risk, the highest value moves are the unglamorous ones. Keep the fat around your middle from creeping up. Get the screenings you are due for. Do not let anything, including a trendy oil, become your excuse to skip them. And let me be concrete about what those screenings are, because vague advice is easy to ignore. After 60, the ones that save the most lives are simple and mostly covered. A colon screening, whether that is a colonoscopy or one of the newer stool tests you can do at home. A mammogram for women. For long-time smokers, a lung scan that most people have never even heard of, and that catches things early enough to matter. Ask your doctor which ones you are due for. Write the list down. These are the tests that find a problem while it is still small and fixable, which is the entire game. A spoonful of oil finds nothing. It just makes you feel like you looked. That is claim 2. A real observation, twisted into a dangerous permission slip. Take a breath, because from here the news gets better and more useful. We are past the 2 claims that could hurt you. Now we are into the parts that are actually real, starting with the fat. Claim number 3. This oil burns the fat around your organs. This one is partly true, and I want to be fair to it. There is a specific kind of fat we worry about, called visceral fat. It is not the soft fat you can pinch under the skin. It is the deep fat packed around your liver, your pancreas, your intestines, and it is the metabolically dangerous kind. It drives inflammation. It worsens insulin resistance, and it raises your risk for heart disease, and yes, several cancers. Here is how you know if you carry too much of it, and you can check this in the next 60 seconds. Take a tape measure to the level of your belly button. For a man, risk rises past about 40 inches. For a woman, past about 35 inches. Not your pant size, which lies. The actual measured number. Write it down. And here is why that number matters more than almost any other you could track. Visceral fat is not just sitting there. It is metabolically active, and it drives your blood sugar in the wrong direction. This is the part the oil sellers skip, because it points at the real problem. Right now, according to the CDC, about 38 million Americans have diabetes, and roughly 98 million more have prediabetes, blood sugar that is running high but has not tipped over yet. And most of that 98 million have no idea. They feel fine. Prediabetes does not hurt. It just quietly raises your risk of heart disease, kidney trouble, and yes, several cancers, year after year, while you feel completely normal. The fat around your organs is one of the engines behind that. So when you measure your waist, you are not chasing a number on a scale. You are getting a read on the single process that connects your weight, your blood sugar, your heart, and your cancer risk all at once. That is why I keep coming back to it. Now, does the oil help with that visceral fat? Modestly. There are controlled studies where people who used this type of oil instead of olive oil at the same calories lost a little more fat and a little more of it, specifically from that dangerous visceral area. The effect is real, but small. Think of it as a light tailwind, not an engine. A tailwind is worth having, but if you are standing still, a tailwind does not move you. The oil nudges. What actually shrinks visceral fat is the same boring, powerful trio it has always been. Less sugar and refined starch coming in, more muscle to burn it, and movement most days. The oil, at best, is a small helper riding on top of those. Claim 3 then. Real, but oversold. A nudge, not a furnace. And now the warning nobody gives you, which is the fourth thing this oil does. This is a saturated fat. It is a cousin of the fat in butter and coconut oil, and for some people, adding a couple of tablespoons a day will raise their LDL cholesterol, the kind that builds up in your arteries. The American Heart Association is clear that saturated fat raises LDL, and MCT oil is squarely in that family. Now, people react differently. Plenty of folks see no change. But I have seen people over 60 add this to their coffee for 6 months, chasing a slimmer waist, and walk into a checkup with a cholesterol number that jumped. Nobody warned them, because the person selling the oil only talks about the upside. So here is the rule. If you are going to use this, and especially if you already have heart concerns or high cholesterol, you get your lipid panel checked before you start and again a few months in. That one test tells you whether this oil is helping you or quietly working against your heart. Do not fly blind on this. That is the warning. Before I get to the fifth thing, let me clear up one more piece of the sales pitch, because it is clever and it is half true. You will hear that the magic is not the oil alone, it is the oil plus the caffeine, and that together they multiply your fat burning far beyond what either does alone. Here is the honest version. 66. Caffeine does modestly increase the rate at which your body releases and burns fat. That part is real, and it is one more reason plain coffee is good for you. The oil, by shifting your fuel toward ketones, adds a little on top of that. But the claim that combining them more than doubles the effect, that the two multiply together into something huge, is a stretch built from small studies and hopeful math. In real people, Over real weeks, these are small effects, stacked on small effects. Small plus small is still small. A tailwind on top of a tailwind is still a tailwind. It is not a jet engine, and it will not undo the donut. I am not telling you it does nothing. I am telling you not to expect the numbers in the advertisement, because the numbers in the advertisement were never measured in someone like you. Now let me give you the fifth thing, and this is the one that actually matters most for anyone over 60, and almost nobody puts it on the list. It is muscle. As we age, we lose it steadily, and it is one of the biggest threats to staying independent. Losing muscle is how people lose their balance, lose their footing on the stairs, and lose the strength to carry their own groceries. It is one of the quiet roads to the nursing home. Think about that. Not your heart, not your memory, your legs. The thing that decides whether you stay in your own home is often just whether you can still get up off the floor. Now, the oil is sometimes sold as muscle protection, and there is a thread of real science there about ketones sparing muscle during weight loss. But let me be honest with you about the size of that thread versus the size of the real solution. The National Institute on Aging is clear about what actually preserves muscle after 60, and it is two things, neither of which is an oil. The first is protein. And here is the trap. Most older adults eat too little of it, and their bodies use it less efficiently than they did at 40. So you need more, right when you are eating less. See the problem? You have to be deliberate about it. A simple target most experts land on for older adults is somewhere around a gram of protein for every 2 pounds of body weight, spread through the day, some at each meal, not all piled onto dinner. In plain terms, that means real protein at breakfast and lunch, not just a big steak at night. A couple of eggs in the morning, some Greek yogurt, a can of tuna, a chicken thigh, beans. Your body over 60 cannot use one giant serving as well as it uses 3 moderate ones, so spacing it out is not fussy, it is the whole trick. The second is resistance. You have to make a muscle work against something to keep it. That does not mean a gym. It means standing up from a chair without using your hands 10 times. It means a resistance band, or carrying the groceries in from the car in 2 trips instead of asking someone else to do it. Twice a week, muscles that are made to work are muscles you keep. That is the real muscle protocol. The oil is a footnote. Protein and resistance are the whole book. Now I want to tell you something that reframes this entire video, because it turns out the most valuable thing in that cup was never the oil at all. It was the coffee. NIH researchers followed more than 400,000 older adults for over a decade, and the coffee drinkers had a lower risk of dying during the study than the non-drinkers. Moderate coffee, the plain black kind, is one of the most consistently healthy habits we have studied in older people. It is linked with better blood sugar control and a lower risk of several diseases. So here is the irony worth sitting with. People are paying good money for a fancy oil to pour into the one thing in the cup that was already doing them the most good. If you drink your coffee black and in reasonable amounts, you are already doing the evidence-based part. Everything else is at the margins. Let me stack these 5 up before we get practical, because the ranking is the whole point. Stem cell reactivation, mostly hype. A mouse study in a costume. Starving cancer, a real observation turned into a dangerous excuse to skip the things that actually save you. Burning visceral fat, real but small, a nudge, not an engine. Raising your LDL, the warning nobody gives, get the test. And protecting muscle, real. But the oil is a footnote next to protein and resistance. Notice the pattern. The claims got quieter and truer as we went. The loudest promises were the emptiest. Here's the objection I hear most. You have already bought the oil, it is sitting in your cupboard, and you want to know if there is any honest way to use it. Fair enough. If you want to try it, I would rather you do it correctly than waste your money or spend a morning in the bathroom. So here is the protocol, and there are 3 places people go wrong. First, the type. Not all of this oil is the same. It is sold as a mix of different fats, labeled by a letter and a number, and the one worth having is called C8. It converts to ketones the fastest and is the easiest on your gut. The cheap products are mostly a fat called C12, which behaves more like ordinary coconut oil and does not do the thing you are paying for. So read the label. Look for C8 or a blend of C8 and C10. If the main ingredient is coconut oil or something called lauric acid, put it back. You are paying more for the real thing, but the cheap version is money for nothing. Second, the dose and the ramp. This is where people make themselves miserable and then quit. Do not start big. Start with a single teaspoon on your first morning and stay there for 3 or 4 days. Your liver processes all of this, and if you overwhelm it on day 1, you get cramping, loose stools, and nausea. That is not the oil failing. That is you going too fast. Most people who say they cannot tolerate it started at a tablespoon on day 1. If a teaspoon sits fine, work up slowly over a couple of weeks toward a tablespoon, and there is no reason to go past that. More is not better here. More is just more saturated fat. Third, and this is the mistake I see most, you have to blend it. If you pour oil into hot coffee and stir with a spoon, it floats on top in a slick, and you drink mouthfuls of pure grease. It tastes bad, it sits worse, and you lose the point. Use a small blender, an immersion blender, or a handheld milk frother for 10 seconds. It turns creamy, it tastes like a latte, and your stomach handles it far better. Blend it or do not bother. And now the questions I know you have, because I get them every time this comes up. Can you use this if you are diabetic or on insulin? This is exactly the conversation to have with your own doctor first, not with a video, because anything that shifts your fuel and your blood sugar can interact with your medication, and the dose of your medication may need attention. Do not improvise that alone. What if you have had your gallbladder out or you have liver trouble? Then go slower and lighter, and again, ask first, because this oil leans hard on your liver and your digestion. And is it worth the cost? Honestly, for most people, no. A good quality version is not cheap, and the money would do more for you spent on protein, on decent walking shoes, or on the copay for the screening you have been putting off. The oil is a luxury at the very edge of the results. I would rather you spend on the center. Which brings us to the latter, because at some point this stops being about a cup of coffee and starts being about your body telling you something. Here is how I want you to think about it. If your waist measurement is creeping up year over year, that is not an emergency, but it is a note to bring to your next visit. If your energy has genuinely dropped or you are losing strength, write down when it started and mention it. If you are due for a screening, do not wait, and do not let any breakfast habit convince you that you are covered. Call your primary care doctor and get it scheduled. If something needs attention today but is not an emergency, that is exactly what urgent care is for. Same day, evenings, and weekends, and far cheaper and faster than the emergency room. But if you ever have a symptom that frightens you, chest pressure, sudden weakness on one side, trouble speaking, do not sit at home reading about oils. Call 911. Do not drive yourself. An ambulance starts treatment on the way, and the emergency room sees you faster when you arrive by ambulance. I know a visit is expensive, and I know that is a real reason people wait. But over and over, the people who waited paid far more in health and in dollars than the ones who got checked and sent home. Getting checked and sent home is a good outcome. It is never a waste of anyone's time. And here is the single highest value thing I can hand you today, and it costs you nothing. If you are on Medicare, your annual wellness visit is free. No copay, no deductible. Most people never use it. At that visit, ask for 3 numbers and write them down. Ask for your A1C, which tells you where your blood sugar has been running. Ask for your LDL cholesterol, especially if you are using this oil. And ask your doctor to measure your waist and tell you where you stand. Those 3 numbers tell you more about your future than any oil ever will. and someone reads them with you for free. Let me bring Carol back, because her story does not end where the fear ended. When she finally went in for the screening she had been putting off, it was fine. She got lucky. But she told me the thing that stuck with her was realizing she had spent months feeling protected by a spoonful of fat while quietly skipping the one thing that actually protects her. She still drinks her coffee. She dropped the oil, and she does not miss an appointment anymore. So let me leave you with the pattern. The one thing to carry out of here. When a single cheap ingredient promises to do 3 impossible things at once, the truth is usually that it does one small real thing and the other 2 are a story. This oil is a mild nudge for visceral fat, a possible bump to your cholesterol, and a footnote for muscle. That is the honest version. The powerful stuff was never in the bottle. It was the black coffee you already drink, the protein on your plate, the muscle you keep by using it, and the screenings you stop postponing. That is what keeps you in your own home, on your own stairs, carrying your own groceries. Here is your one small step for this week, and only one. Take a tape measure to your waist tomorrow morning at the belly button and write the number down with the date. That is it, not the oil. The number, because the number tells you the truth. And the truth is the thing you can actually act on. If someone you love is over 60 and has been talking about this oil, or worse, been using it as a reason to skip a checkup, share this with them. That conversation might matter more than you know.